Hello there, and welcome to Eldino, only on Riot Radio and all of our other affiliations. We have a lot of those. Check us out on YouTube, all that jazz. My name is being flashed currently. My name is Eldin, and welcome to Eldino. So we're gonna have a DINO-MITE time, as the saying goes. Today we are still talking about Canadian dinosaurs. We're working our way through, and we are down to the last dinosaur that starts with the letter P, and there's a lot to talk about. Like I have 3 pages of notes, which I don't normally have. So I'm really excited today to talk about it. Last week's episode, or I guess last episode, we talked about Prosaurolophus, and today we're talking about a different Saurolophus. Not Saurolophus, that'll be next week, and not Paralophosaurus, because I've talked about that 3 times. We're talking about Prosaurolophus. So Prosaurolophus, it's a beautiful dinosaur. It's a hadrosaurine dinosaur, so in the family of Edmontosaurus, stuff like that. It's got a nice little crest. You can tell it's not part of the Lambeosaurine because its crest is dinky and small. Dinky and small is not Lambeosaurine. Lambeosaurine is big and beautiful. You can quote me on that one. So if you haven't seen it before, you may have seen it on the 5-star TV show Dinosaur King that has now been off the air for a very long time. But you can still find it somewhere online, possibly. I don't really know. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend the show. It's a kid's show. It's kind of like an anime. It's like one of those weird like American animes. But I liked it. I love it. It's dinosaurs. So sit back and get ready to dig into the history, the sizes, and the discoveries of this amazing Canadian dinosaur. And then, woo, as I change my papers. Wow. Okay, so, Prosaurolophus. I used a lot of links. They'll be in the description of the video. Prosaurolophus' name means before Saurolophus, which you'd think its name would be pre-Saurolophus. But it's Prosaurolophus for some strange reason. And funny enough, Prosaurolophus and Saurolophus, which are 2 different dinosaurs, by the way, they weren't really found that far apart in time of how long they existed for, so the name's not really exactly the same thing. And the main difference is really the lack of a crest. So, as you saw before, Prosaurolophus has this dinky little crest that starts at like the end of its nose bone and comes up between its eyes. That's it. Like, this is a dinky little crest. You look at Prosaurolophus, or I guess Saurolophus, and it's big, it's beautiful. Dinky, again, hadrosaurine, not a Lambeosaurid. As you can see, this poor guy. But look at his teeth. They had hundreds of teeth after that. And I'm going to talk about that later, but just while it's up there, hundreds of teeth in that thing. This thing it had a big beak, and then just not like 20, not like 34, hundreds of grinding teeth. So, its name phonetically is Prosaurolophus. It was named by Barnum Brown in 1916, and it was discovered by Barnum Brown in 1915. So Barnum Brown, big guy in Canada when it comes to dinosaur discoveries. There's 2 species types. The first one is Prosaurolophus maximus, and the second one, which I hate saying, is Prosaurolophus blackfeetensis, which I'm pretty sure comes from the Blackfoot tribe. I didn't really find a ton of information. This one's found in Montana, though. So, talking about its size, because it was a big dinosaur. I fall into the trap of seeing 9 meters and thinking, oh, this thing was really small. No. So 9 meters translates to approximately 30 feet in length. So the thing was huge. And the skull alone was 0.9 meters. The skull, if you watched last week's episode where I compared Justin to a 3-foot-tall dinosaur, the skull is as big as that dinosaur. That's a 3-foot skull, which is insane. It would have been about 3 to 4 meters at the shoulder, which is insane. That's 10 to 13 feet tall. It's all on all fours because it could stand up upright, and it would have weighed 3 to 4 tons. Now that's American tons. I think Canadian short tons is like 5 tons. So it's a big dinosaur. Now we talked about others in the same family. So hadrosaurid dinosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs in the same family. We talked about Edmontosaurus in a past episode, and we saw that Edmontosaurus was bigger, much bigger actually, by almost a difference of 6 meters or 19 feet, which is kind of cool to think that we have dinosaurs that fill the same niche and same role, but are very different. They were found in Alberta in the Dinosaur Park Formation and in Montana in the Two Medicine Formation. They lived during the Campanian of the Cretaceous. So I always get this mixed up. Cretaceous is when all the dinosaurs died, towards the end of the Cretaceous. The Campanian is about 77 to 74 million years ago. So it kind of fills that little role in there. Some people, one website said 77 to 75, one says 75.5 to 74. We're going to say 70, 78 to 70. We're going to call it, wrap it up. So they found multiple species, and of these, we found at least 25 individuals, which is incredible. It's a huge amount of dinosaurs to find. Not all of them have been complete, but they've got something going for them. The first fossil of Prosaurolophus was found in Alberta in 1915 by Barnum Brown, and was later described and named by Brown in 1916. The description and the naming was based on an incomplete skull that was actually reconstructed wrong. So, as I say, paleontology, it's mostly guesswork. Again, when you have a puzzle and you can see all the pieces, it's really easy. When you have a puzzle and you have an outline, but you don't know how it ends, it's very hard to find those pieces. What happened here is they had a partial skull, reconstructed it wrong, made the skull a bit longer than it actually was. In real life, it was actually a shorter skull, and shorter in length and height. But it totally swayed what this animal looked like. So, reconstructed wrong. After finding more complete fossils, it was shown that the skull was actually shorter than the original. The species was named Prosaurolophus maximus, which means like big, maximum. Eventually, an additional species was recognized, but that wouldn't happen until 1992. So we're talking 1916, Prosaurolophus is found. They find bones in Montana, and they're like, yo, this is really similar to Prosaurolophus. Like, this guy must have, like, really got around. And then they're like, wait a minute. That can't be right. It looks a little different. And then who but Jack R. Horner, who is really well known as like a modern day paleontologist, comes along. He's known for some of his internationally best work with hadrosaurid dinosaurs. And he says, you know what? Prosaurolophus had a cousin. And that cousin was Prosaurolophus blackfeetensis. And that's feet, plural, not singular, not blackfootensis, black feet. I don't know if it had black feet. I'm just saying what it's called. This species was found in multiple bone beds in Montana, and as of today, or whenever I wrote this, was technically yesterday, this species has only been found in Montana, while Maximus has only been found in Canada. So big difference, as we said, sometimes dinosaurs roam. Edmontosaurus was known for having way up in BC and all the way down to like almost Mexico. So we know there's different species. Both species are known and are recognized by the prominent little dinky crests. When you have a little dinky crest, everyone notices. Trust me, you think you're not going to notice it when you walk into the house, they're going to notice the dinky crest. And it starts at the nasal bone and goes between the eyes. So kind of like, for people it wouldn't look like much, but when you're like, picture a horse at the end of its nose bone, if it went all the way up to between the eyes, it'd be quite a distance. The first difference is that these two species starts with the morphological or physical appearances. So blackfeetensis, which I'm going to call them just Maximus and blackfeetensis because I would keep having to say the whole name, it's going to kill me, had a steeper and taller face than Maximus. And you could kind of see this, I don't have a side-by-side picture, but you could see this definitely when they were like side-by-side. Blackfeetensis had like a longer nose. It was longer in general. And it was more noticeable when looking at them side-by-side. It's tough to kind of look at two skulls and like, oh, that one looks a little different. But once you have them on the same page, it looks a bit better. That meaning a steeper face too. So kind of like a higher bridge, which means their crest would have been bigger. This made, of course, the crest size vary. The second difference is where they were found. And like, I mean, like not found in like, oh, one's from Alberta, one's from Montana. No, more so in the fact that like, we found one in what was as I go to my next page, what was higher elevation. So looking at Prosaurolophus blackfeetensis, it lived in an area that was more inland. So more inland at the time, because there was a big sea. We kind of forget that half of Canada and half the States, there was an inland sea that was just there, and dinosaurs had to get around it. So blackfeetensis lived at a higher elevation, and would have had to, and that's why it changed. Like it had a taller skull, which made it easier and have stronger jaw muscles because you had a bigger skull, to eat harder foods. So the food it was eating was definitely tougher than the inland variety. We know this for a fact that like most times when you look at animals that live kind of like in like marsh area and then the ones that live in the forest, they have to have different teeth because they're eating different things. So Blackfeedensis had a stronger jaw that helped for chewing. And it was really incredible because like, when you look at plants that are in more inland, higher elevations, you know they're tougher. So you have to have animals that can adapt. Maximus was found in an area that was probably a lowland near the coast of the Western Interior Seaway, which is really crazy. Again, Canada and America had a sea in the middle of it. It wasn't connected to anything, it was just in the middle. Now, with that being said, this would have been a more wet climate with possible marshes as well. So when you're in a marsh, you're going to have different things to eat. So while Maximus lived in a wetland area, it wouldn't have to have nearly as strong a jaws because you're chewing up plant matter that's already in the water. It's soaked, it's nice and mushy. When your food's nice and wet, you don't have to, it's like eating oatmeal. If you're eating oatmeal or, I don't know, bacon, you need different things to, even cereal. Sometimes cereal's tougher, right? So as you're eating these things, you need different jaw muscles, use different stuff. Now, the big caveat to everything I'm saying, we're not entirely sure what hadrosaurid dinosaurs ate for sure. There's tons of conversations about it. So some paleontologists suggest that the diet of these dinosaurs would have varied. With the hardier inland plants and easy to chew wetland plants, so basically that they could adapt to either one, with wet and dry seasons playing a big role in where they would go. But other paleontologists suggest that they filled their own niches and would stick to just that. So if you had Prosaurolophus that was eating just like marsh lilies and all kinds of water plants, it would just do that. Because at the time, there wouldn't be a wet and dry season because it would be mostly wet near the coast. So we're not entirely sure for sure, but there's no good reason to suggest that everything I'm saying is wrong, so don't doubt me. Just take my word and hope for the best. With that, though, Blackfeedensis, we know, was found in shared bone beds with others of its species, leading to two theories. Theory one is that it was a herd dinosaur. We think Maiasaurus, which is one of the best dinosaurs ever found to be shown with offspring, we know that it was a mother dinosaur that incubated its eggs, looked after them. It was there for a while. That being said, though, these bone beds that they found Blackfeedensis in, there was different ages. So it's really kind of, it makes you think, okay, maybe it was a family group. The rebuttal is that they've been found in these bone beds that are actually just dried up lakes or dried up watering holes where they all kind of showed up, tried their best, they drank some water, and then, of course, the watering hole would evaporate after a while. So there's a couple things that we think, but for the most part, we think they were group animals. Now, with that being said, we know that it's much safer for herbivores to be in a group. Now, when you live in a group, you have more eyes, you have your safety numbers, and if you're trying to rear like young, you want to have more eyes on them to help out. It's not easy. If you're wasting your time hatching eggs, and the eggs hatch, and you have 10 offspring, and none of them make it to adulthood, that's a waste. You've wasted all that energy, all that time. And you have to look at animals as almost like a business. When you're having children in the animal world, you want to make sure they actually get to adulthood. That is your goal. You're forwarding your genes. So if they're not making it, what's the point? But again, herd mentality helps that. But we're not entirely sure or unsure, so again, take it with a grain of salt. Now, hadrosaur dinosaurs are known for being physically well adapted to fit these generalist roles, which would make sense. That sentence begs, though, who says that and why? And I'll tell you. So to start off, they could switch between a bipedal and quadrupedal stance. So they could go from 2 legs to 4, and then back to 2 legs and back to 4. Very easy with them. This would enable them to conserve energy by switching to the most efficient mode of travel. So if you're going up a hill and it's easier to be on all fours, you go on all fours. But if you're, running through a meadow or the forest and it's a little too much to be on all fours, you can just switch and you put your arms up and you run on your back legs. And it would help to conserve energy. Now, having a 2-leg stance would also enable them to reach higher up. So if you're on all fours, you can only look so high. You can only look so high up and you can only get to those plants. But if you can all of a sudden lift yourself up and then reach, you can reach them. And that way you get better plants. So you can graze on different things. A Triceratops can't lift up on its legs. So it's going to sit and eat the same thing every time. This could change its diet like that. Now, it also had a keratinous beak, which keratin is like your fingernails and such. So it had a beak at the end of its mouth with the teeth, as I said before. And the beak would almost act like shears or clip or snips. So it would just bite onto plants and just kind of chunk right through them. Easy peasy. You're just biting through these things with ease. And then you have these hundreds of grinding teeth to just make a pulpy mess of whatever you're eating, and then you can swallow it easier. When you're basically destroying everything you're eating and then digesting it, it's super easy to just have it in your stomach because it's already been broken down. And that's where I did on my last page. So I did a lot of information with this one. Now, from analysis of the eyes, or at least the eye sockets, because eyes don't fossilize, we can guess that they were cathameral. Now, cathameral sounds pretty crazy, like a catheter maybe, but no, don't worry. It means they were more active for short periods of time throughout the day and did not need to wait for a specific time of day or night. So think of diurnal. Diurnal means like you're active at dawn, nocturnal night. I think actually diurnal means you're active during the day. But cathameral kind of just means you can do whatever you want. You'd be up, let's say it's 2 o'clock in the morning, okay, I'm going to graze. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, okay, I'm going to graze. Didn't really matter, you could do what you wanted. Now, it definitely wasn't easy being a hadrosaur in North America at this time, though. So during the late Cretaceous, it was a really rough place to be. You had competition with other herbivores like ceratopsians like Centrosaurus and Styracosaurus. Oh no, I'm going to sneeze. I don't have the head on this time at least. If anyone said bless you, thank you. So Centrosaurus and Styracosaurus. Then you had Ankylosaurs like Europlocephalus, which we talked about. You had Nodosaurs like Edmontonia. And you'd either like other family members like Maiasaura, and then Lambeosaurine hadrosaurs like Prosaurolophus, which I will not talk about again, because if you want to watch the episodes, go back and find them. Corythosaurus and Hypacrosaurus. Now, they had to deal with true monsters too. So as much as you're competing with all these different animals, all these different dinosaurs, you have to try to survive Daspletosaurus, which was like a grizzly bear of a tyrannosaur, and Gorgosaurus, which was like another grizzly, comparatively a grizzly and a lion. And then smaller critters like Troodons that would make it probably pretty tough to be a small dinosaur when you were growing up. Now, I've talked about a lot of these dinosaurs in the past, and you can go back and watch those episodes too. So if we're on YouTube, you can watch them there, or you can find them on riotradio.ca. But that is all the information I have for you today about Prosaurolophus, or Prosaurolophus. Yeah, Prosaurolophus is good enough. So next week, or next episode is probably the best way to say it. Funny enough, the next dinosaur after Prosaurolophus is Saurolophus. So we're going to talk about Saurolophus, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I really enjoyed it. I put the links in. There's some really good websites that actually have a ton of information, so I really enjoy having those. But thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks again for everyone behind the scenes. And you've been watching El Dino live from Media Hub on riotradio.ca.